Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cool Sports Guy. I'm Tom. Joining me today is Jarrett, and we are going to talk about football. Jarrett, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, pretty good.
Like the glasses. I don't know if
Yeah,
I've
the
noticed this before.
intelligent look going on.
Fair enough. You look intelligent. Maybe you'll finally give us some good takes today. We'll see what happens.
I think my takes are pretty solid. It's my picks, on the other hand, we're not going to go into, but
Listen, hey, I do want to just real quick say that I was partially excited for the way the Bears was playing last week. It was like, oof, oh my, we might get a win here, but yeah, sorry, that didn't work
if,
out
if
very
you were a
well.
Bears fan, even after the first half, you knew it was going to be a loss. One thing with Nagy, he's a great dude and all, but one of his biggest problems, he does not make adjustments at halftime. Why Matt LaFleur is so much of a better coach is because he actually makes adjustments. Like they shut down Devontae Adams in the first half, and then the adjustments, we did make adjustments, and Devontae shredded us in the second half. It's kind of how it
Mm,
goes.
fair enough. Well, that's I don't know how many adjustments you want to make when you're leading and your special teams is just simply kicking ass and the other
Well, the
team's
special teams
special
was the
teams.
only reason we had the lead in the first place. So our offense wasn't playing that great. Our defense was like, eh. I mean, given we have so many injuries that I think, honestly, if we even put up points, it's impressive.
Well, you guys went
Whatever.
toe to toe.
Uh,
I'll give
I'm
you
not
that.
hurt. I'm not hurt at all.
Yeah, you don't. I'm sure. Every Bears. Well, I guess every Bears fan at this point is just numb rather than hurt. Um, well, we're not going to talk
Yeah.
too much about the Bears because it's the Bears, and besides
Better not
you,
talk about them.
um, we're actually going to move on to a Monday night football game. That's the Rams, who, by the way, I picked to win, and you thought I was crazy to pick them to win against the Cardinals. And they won. So I'll go ahead and start with you. Were you impressed with the Rams, and how did you think about what did you think about OBJ's performance?
I'm going to point out, I didn't think you were crazy for picking the Rams. I thought that I was just surprised you did because going into that game, I picked the Rams to win, and I thought I was going to be the only one to do so. But it turns out we all three picked the Rams. Uh,
I thought you picked the
I
Cardinals.
no, I picked the Rams.
Oh,
I picked the
okay,
Rams every
fair
week.
enough.
My thing with the Rams, they were my NFC Super Bowl pick at the beginning of the year. My boy Cooper Cup, I should be rocking the Cooper Cup jersey right now, but kind of had a really good game. Matt Stafford came back from the past 3 or 4 games where he's just been awful. Uh, the Rams looked impressive. I wasn't necessarily surprised as I was just kind of like they played like they should be playing. Like this entire year, they have talent on paper, one of the best teams in the league. They didn't even have their starting tight end Tyler Higbee or Jalen Ramsey because of COVID, and they still played super well. Murray didn't have the greatest of games, but whenever Aaron Donald's in your face the entire game, it's kind of hard to do that. But I just think the Rams played up to their ability, and I think if they keep playing like that well, I think they could make a run at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, if they keep playing like that, they could make it to Super Bowl and potentially even win it. To me, it's can they keep playing like that because you come out and you have one or two games like this and you look really great, like just like the beginning of the season they did, and then out of nowhere you just have a bad game. And I also feel like the Cardinals partially also just had a bad game, and I think that contributed to it. Don't get me wrong, I think the Rams played really, really well. And then moving forward, they have the Seahawks, Vikings, Ravens, and 49ers left to play. With Ravens have been looking kind of like crap for the last couple of weeks, and I don't really see it necessarily getting better with Lamar's injury. They're still up on the fence on whether he's going to play or not, but even if he does, I don't know how productive he can be if he can't move around much. 49ers, Vikings, and Seahawks are all trying to fight and continue to keep that wild card spot. So they do have a tough couple of games coming up, in my opinion. Even with that, the Rams are in a good spot. If they can just literally win one more game, they'll be in a good position to make the wild card. And I think they will end up making the wild card. The question is, can they continue to perform good in the playoffs when you have the Buccaneers, who you already beaten. I get that, but you also have the Packers who beat you. You also have the Cardinals. You're 1-1. Got to go back and play them again. Um, so those needs to be taken into consideration. And one of these teams that they're playing in the next few weeks might actually be a wild card team too. Um, I don't necessarily see the Rams, and I hate to say this because Matthew Stafford, I predicted a Bucks Rams NFC Championship game. And I hate to say this, but I don't see Matthew Stafford continuing to perform the way he just did last week every week. And I don't see OBJ continuing to perform the same way he did yesterday for the simple fact that Matthew Stafford is not going to throw the ball the same. But that's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. I still don't really have a reason to why I picked the Rams. I just picked the Rams, and I'm glad I was right.
I think that the Rams, they're very talented for maybe calling them a dark horse team, but I'm going to call them a dark horse team anyways. And not even just for the wild card, I think they could very much compete for the division title over the Cardinals. They're one game behind. The Cardinals, Deandre Hopkins, is it 2 games?
I believe it was 2 games. I believe they're 2 games behind. Yes.
Maybe I will change my mind. No, it's only 1. It's 10-3 and 9-4.
Oh, really?
But
you're right.
My thing with the Rams is they have the COVID problem right now with like Ramsey and Higbee out and whatnot. But the Cardinals, Hawkins is out for the regular season with a knee sprain, which I know losing just one player isn't the end of the world and it shouldn't crush team's entire season. But I think it could hurt them a little bit. I think Kyler Murray is a great quarterback and is in contention to win MVP, even though he missed a few games. But I think he relies on Hopkins more than we would realize. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals still win the division just because they have the game lead. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if the Rams came from underneath them.
Yeah, I don't think the Rams are going to come back and take it for the simple fact that, one, the Cardinals currently still hold the lead. And 2, the Rams still have to play 4 teams that are still fighting to keep a position. Seattle's going to try and fight, and we're going to talk about them in a second here, but they're going to try and fight to keep a wild card position or not even get to 1. Vikings are going to fight to get to 1. Ravens, they're not looking so hot right now. There is a potential chance they're going to risk from being the division leaders falling to a wild card round. And so they're going to try and fight to keep that. 49ers are going to try and fight to keep their wild card position that they currently hold. So all 4 teams that the Rams play moving forward are all fighting for that playoff spot. But the Cardinals, on the other hand, I hate to say this, but Lions, I can almost pretty much guarantee a victory on that, right?
I don't know if you want to do a guarantee.
I'm not. That's not my pick. I'm not. No, we're not going there. I'm just saying. Pretty much guarantee a victory there. Colts might be a tough game. Cowboys and Seahawks, just like the Cardinals. Washington's still only 2 games behind. They play Cowboys again, and Washington can very much still take the lead. So Cowboys are going to fight with the with the purpose. Colts are going to try and fight to keep that wild card spot. Seahawks, just like I said, they want to win every game out from here, so they're going to try and fight too. So both of these teams have something to fight for. But that being said, Rams at the end of the day are still 1 whole game behind, and I just don't see a scenario where they win 2 games more than the Cardinals in the next 4 games just to take the lead. But I think the wild card round for the NFC is going to look very interesting because there are some scary teams, some very scary teams. But nonetheless, moving on. I actually do want to talk about the Cardinals losing, how that affected the NFC standing. So now Packers are back to number 1 seed, just like last year. So they currently hold the bye and home field advantage. Bucks are number 2 for the first time in I don't know how long. I think it's like 14 years. The Bucks are looking at winning the division. And I think they said that the Bucks technically did clinch division, but I don't know if that's entirely true because they are 4 games or 3 games ahead of the Saints and the Falcons. And if Saints beat the Bucks this coming week, they can still potentially take on the Bucks. So they haven't necessarily
To my
completely clinched.
knowledge, I don't think any team has clinched a playoff spot yet. I
I
know there's
believe the
teams who have
Packers
been
have.
eliminated, but I don't think
Oh,
they
you're
clinched it
right.
because the Vikings.
You're right. No one's clinched a division lead. That's very true. So yeah, but if the Bucks beat the Saints this week, they will for sure win the division. At that point, it's just a matter of if the Falcons are gonna catch up to them. But the Falcons were beat by the Bucks twice, so even if it's a tied record, they won't. So and um, so yeah, so Bucks are second, and then Cardinals with that one loss to Rams literally went from being one game ahead of everybody and having the number one seed to now the number three seed. Do you think how bad or how good do you think this impacts the NFC?
As much as I hate Green Bay, I know I say that every single time we ever talk about Green Bay, but I'm going to keep saying it because I hate Green Bay. But home field advantage, it like for some teams it doesn't matter all that. The Packers, like in Lambeau, is one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. I know last year they had home field advantage, but at the same time there wasn't really fans last year. So yeah, you could go like with the weather playing a part of it, but it wasn't really a fan thing. But when it comes to this year, fans are back and whatnot. I think it'll make a difference. Hypothetically, would I pick them to beat Tampa Bay? Probably not, because I've never betting against Tom Brady in my life. But I think that it'll play huge if the Packers end up with the number one seed. I think that they could very well, maybe even win an NFC Championship game. I know that's Aaron Rodgers doesn't really that, but like maybe they will with the whole Lambeau advantage.
Yeah, maybe. And my biggest takeaway right now, Cardinals remind me of the Bucks last year. Bucks were doing so well on the road, and they were doing terrible at home. And then eventually they got to the playoffs, and all three playoffs games that they played were away games, and they won all three of those games. Cardinals, the only three losses they have, all three of them are actually at home this year, so far at least. So if the Cardinals end up having, if they win the division and they win that game at home, and then they need to go and play um, away from home, if they need to play an away game, whether that's Lambeau, whether that's Tampa Bay, wherever it is, then I don't know. It looks like maybe the Cardinals have a better shot going on the road, just like the Bucks did last year. So I do think it actually makes things interesting, and I don't necessarily see this being a negative impact on the Cardinals. Uh, Buccaneers so far this season haven't lost a game at home, so I'm sure they would want to continue to keep that streak going. Want to stay at home as much as they can. Packers would do anything, even though they lost last year at home in NFC Championship game. They would still continue to do whatever they can to stay at home. Like you said, not every field has a home field advantage, but the Lambeau Field playing, especially with the weather late January, and especially with this season's case, I think it's going to be very end of January or very beginning of February actually when they play the NFC Championship game, and there's a crowd this time. So I'm sure that's going to be a huge advantage that they want to take into consideration. Bucks have it pretty easy moving forward. Honestly, their biggest threat moving forward is the Saints because the Saints just beat them last week. Besides that, you play the Panthers twice, Jets once. Jets, Tom Brady playing the Jets, pretty much almost just like the Bills. I can guarantee you, Ben. The only difference is Bills are actually finally a good team. Jets are still trash. Cam Newton has never actually lost against Tom Brady. Played Tom Brady twice and actually beat him both times, and that was with the Panthers. Cam's now with the Panthers, but that Panthers team and Cam Newton look entirely different than they were a few years ago. Saints just beat Brady twice last year, once this year. For some reason, they have something on him, and they might continue to do that this week. We'll see what happens. Packers, on the other hand, play the Ravens, play the Browns, win. They play the Lions, another win. They also play the Vikings, who actually beat them once this season. Or so I don't see that happening twice. So I do think the Packers have the best chance of just winning it out. 4 straight games here, to be honest, even more than the Bucks. And I do think the Packers are going to get the home field advantage. So I do think the playoffs are going to be very fun to watch. Um, that being said, we're going to move on to a team that was on a hot streak and is now just lost to their division rivals, putting them back 2 games behind the Dallas Cowboys. I want to talk about the Washington no-name football team. And what do you think? What do you think the loss does? Do you think it was just a bad game for them, or do you think the hype is just completely over?
I honestly thought that the hype in the first place was kind of just shouldn't have been there. They did win,
Rob's
and they
gonna
did
put
win
a
against
hitman on you
legitimate
for
teams.
saying that.
I understand this, and he's more than welcome to. At least they're not the Bears, so he can have that. But they beat some teams who were better than them. But at the same time, I still didn't really trust them to be even a good team. I fully expect them to fall out of the playoff race. I know that they technically only lost by like 1 score against Dallas, but at the same time, it wasn't even a close game until basically garbage
Yeah.
time. I don't think they're like the worst team in the league like that. And I think they can definitely fight for a playoff spot. I just think that there's teams currently not in the playoffs who are better than them. I like the story of Taylor Heineke, but at the same time, I don't think he's a capable quarterback at the NFL level. I think he's maybe a good backup who can come in at certain points, maybe be like decent enough to maybe win a few games, but not really be a starter level quarterback. The defense was bad at the beginning of the year. They're still not great. Chase Young's out for the year. They just have a lot of holes, especially with the Chase Young injury. I nothing against them. I just don't think they're a playoff caliber team.
I want to disagree with you, and I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't believe so. At first, when I thought about this answer, I kept wanting to say it was just a bad game, hype isn't over. It's up to them, really, because they can come back and continue to play the way they did the last 5 weeks. Or they can say, oh, Dallas just beat us. Now we're 2 games behind. It's too, far off. But look, right now, as it stands right now, they still currently hold a wild card spot. So if they really want to, they can still try and fight for it. Not even to win the division, but to keep that wild card spot. And they very much can. They play the Eagles twice. They play the Cowboys once, and I don't remember who they play after that. But they very much can hold a wild card spot. Do I think they're going to hold a wild card spot? I don't, because you know what team is starting to look pretty scary? The Vikings. The Vikings are starting to look scary. No, don't get me wrong. They're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to go anywhere. They're just going to do good enough to get into the playoffs and then lose. Maybe win a wild card game. But the Vikings look a lot scarier than Washington to me right now. And Washington currently holds the last wild card round spot. 49ers, I think they're going to continue to do good. I think they're going to end up making it. Rams, we know they're going to make it. Let's face it. So then that leaves you one spot. And I don't see Washington being that team. By the way, there's like 6 other teams that have the same record. Like 6 other teams in the NFC that has the same record. So the next 4 games is extremely important to like 7 different teams. Literally, the positioning has anything to do with who they lost to and their division record. But there's like 6 or 7 NFC teams with 6 wins right now. So that's
I
going
want
to
to
be very
point
fun
out
to watch.
something though. I know you're saying the Vikings look scary. I mean, they beat Green Bay, which is impressive. Don't get me wrong, but then they beat Pittsburgh. They almost allowed a comeback to a Ben Roethlisberger offense. Also, on top of that, I know this doesn't sound scary to you, but they do have to play the Bears twice, which the Bears suck. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hyping them up to be something they're not. But at the same time, Nagy is a terrible coach, but not including the Packers. You know what his record is in division? So against the Vikings and the Lions, 10-2. He's only lost 2 games.
Who are those 2 games to?
One was to the Vikings, and I think one was to the Lions.
Fair enough.
Because we lost to the Vikings last year in the game when Nick Foles was a starter, and then I think in 2018 we actually lost to the Lions.
Well, that's a fair
Maybe
point. I really don't have anything to say back to that other than we'll see when the games happen. And the Bears, I feel like, is a good enough team to beat the Vikings. It's just any given Sunday, how good are the Bears late into the season, and how different have we seen the Vikings late into the season? I think is two different questions.
I
So
kind of
that's
want
also
to throw
something.
a hot take out there. The team I think that may take the last spot in the NFC. I'm actually going to throw a team out there that's going to probably shock you, but I think it can be the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the same record
I
as
could see that.
Washington.
I could see that.
I know Jalen Hurts is hurt. Gardner Minshew last week played super well. He's
Well, they play twice. Washington plays Eagles twice.
I feel like the Eagles can beat Washington. I feel like whether it be Hurts or Minshew, I think they stand a good chance. The thing for one that isn't really a discredit to them, but at the same time, they have a lot of injuries, and always an excuse. At the same time, it definitely hurts your chances. But Chase Young, this was weeks ago, but he tore his ACL and he's out for the year. Heineke got last week, and their backup Kyle Allen, he's on the COVID list now. Logan Thomas, their tight end, he I think tore his ACL and he's out for the year against Las Vegas. And I think they have a shot, but with all the injuries, and I think they're one of the teams with like big COVID outbreaks going on now. I think that it would just be a big shock for them to keep the 7th seed, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get it. Real quick, talking about injury, I don't know if you know about this. Deandre Hopkins is going to be out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
Oh, sorry, you must have been frozen then, because you do keep freezing, and there are times where I don't know what the heck you're saying. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing. Sorry that I missed it. You mentioned that earlier. You're frozen again.
Fun stuff. Love my internet.
And yeah, I think you made a great point about COVID. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. We'll see how many players on how many teams get it, especially wild card and playoff teams in a couple of weeks if it continues to keep up, and if it gets bad. If it gets really, really bad and like half the locker room has it, I could see NFL postponing a game. But it is playoff, so I don't know how they would reschedule, how that would work. If it's just a few players, they're not going to give a crap. And if that happens, and we mentioned it before we came live, the Broncos quarterback room got COVID one time, and a kicker had to play. Or no, I'm sorry, not a kicker. Receiver. A wide receiver had to play quarterback for them.
Or Hilton. He was like a high school quarterback.
Yeah, and that didn't go the best for them. And although I feel like I remember him playing okay. I could be very wrong.
He's awful, but they did play the Saints, and the Saints, I know they're not that great this year, but last year they were a very good team. They won the division and everything.
Yeah,
and
they went 11-5.
Mostly because Denver had a really good defense, but then their offense wasn't even good to begin with, and then they had a receiver playing quarterback, so they just didn't score many points. I think they held the Saints to not that many, but they just scored 3, I think. Which even scoring 3 with a receiver at quarterback is relatively impressive, in my opinion.
Yeah. So if something like that happens, you're just gonna have to have your kicker, one of your wide receivers, or somebody from a practice squad end up playing quarterback. More than likely lose a playoff game. But if the entire locker room or half the locker room gets it, I could see them postponing it a week or so, but I'm not sure exactly how that would work out because of the rest of the season. The Super Bowl's already pushed back a week, or about 2 weeks now. I don't know if you know that, actually, because of the Week 17 game or Week 18 game now, because now there's 17 games. So I don't know how much further they're willing to push it, So that's going to be interesting. With COVID going on any given Sunday, anybody can be out. Rams, I thought they were screwed. Monday night, but man, they got lucky. Um, so man, I do want to talk about a potential wild card spot. Seahawks, who started terrible, who is still technically, from a record standpoint, terrible. They're 5-8. Do you think there's a potential chance of them making the wild card spot?
I want to confidently say no. I feel like I will say I feel like teams that have quarterbacks, you never really count them out. And Russell Wilson, I know he wasn't even having that great of a season to begin with, and then he got hurt for quite a long time. The defense was really bad, and they kind of stepped it up. And now Jamal Adams is out for the year. They also are a team with a bunch of injuries. I believe Chris Carson, their running back, is out for the year. And you know how much Pete Carroll likes to run the ball. I don't think they're an awful team. I think that they will fight for the playoff spot, but they are 2 games out of the playoff spot already, which is hard to come back with given how late into the season we are. So I would confidently say I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and I would be very, very surprised if they did manage to scrap their way into it.
Yeah, as much as I want to look at the Seahawks and go, it's the Seahawks, they very much have a chance. Well, by the way, they're not 2 games behind. They're only 1 game behind. They're 5-8, and the last wild card spot right now is 6-7.
Why did I think that I got it backwards? I thought they were 7-6. I mean, even
no.
so, yeah, you're right. I just looked.
Yeah.
Even so, I think that there's just teams fighting for the playoff spot who I would consider a better team than the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. So the crazy thing to me is right now the way the Seahawks are bouncing back. I can pretty much put Seahawks ahead any of these games. Like if Seahawks play Washington right now, I think I'll pick the Seahawks to win. Seahawks just beat the 49ers. Can they beat the Eagles? Sure. Can they beat Minnesota? Sure. Can they beat the Falcons? Yes. Anyone can beat the Falcons. I don't know how they have 6 wins. Can they beat Saints? Yes, they can. So in that sense, I do think the Seahawks can potentially be the better option going to make the wild card spot. But will they make the wild card spot? Just like you, I can pretty much confidently say no, because at this point, they pretty much have to win at least 3 games and hope that like 5 different teams lose their next 3 or 4 games. And I just don't see that happening. And that's just to make the last spot. That's not even to just, oh yeah, you'll be in the wild card spot. No, the 49ers are 7-6 currently. If they just win 1 or 2 more games, they are good. So Seattle started bouncing back 1 game late. If Seattle had a 6-7 record as we speak right now, I can very much confidently say it's going to be Seattle making it to the playoffs. But unfortunately, that's not the case. They've lost 1 too many games. And the craziest thing to me is that Rams game. If Russell Wilson wasn't hurt in that Rams game, I think Rams were going to lose that game. Wilson was going toe-to-toe. They were actually playing very well against Rams. And Rams still struggled to pull a win off, even with Russell Wilson out during that game. Poor, what's that guy's name? The backup quarterback? Geno Smith. Yeah, exactly. I felt bad for him. So yeah, I just don't see it happening. I mean, they do play the Rams again, so maybe this is Russell Wilson's chance to come back and win. They do play the Cardinals one more time, so that's 2 division wins if they potentially win. They play the Bears. There's probably a win. They play the Lions. There's more than likely a win. So can they win out? Yeah, they absolutely can win out. Crazy thing is, if they do win out, they'll actually be at 9-8. So there's a chance. There's a slight chance. I don't know if it'll happen, but there's a slight chance. Part of me, I'm just hoping it does. That's why I keep fighting for it to happen, because I would very much love to see.
This is slightly off topic. One thing I want to mention is it's kind of weird how like the difference between the NFC and the AFC. When you look at the AFC and all the teams still in the playoff hunt, there's a lot, and even there's going to be some good teams not making the playoffs. And for the NFC, there's going to be some bad teams making the playoffs.
Can you imagine if the Falcons make the playoffs?
That's a basically a bye in the playoffs or whoever they play. Which, I mean, I don't want to disrespect the Falcons because they already get enough crap, but they're a very bad team. I think if the Falcons, honestly, the Saints, the Panthers, the Bears, those are like awful teams. They aren't very good. Washington, also not very good. The Seahawks, like we talked about, aren't the greatest team in the world. Pretty bad. The Vikings are at best. Like it's very bad, but it's just so top heavy. The AFC, it's like all like playoff caliber teams all the way like to the bottom that are left like in the running. As for the NFC, like the top 5 seeds are debatably like the top 7 or 8 teams in the league are in the NFC. And then as for the AFC, you have like the Patriots were good, top team in the league. And then after that, like maybe you want to say the Bills, but they're the 7th seed in the AFC right now. Like they've looked they're I think they're a good team, they're just inconsistent.
But did you go from Patriots to the Bills?
I think I still have faith in the Bills.
You really think the Chiefs are the same team as they were a couple of weeks ago? Bro, Chiefs are scary.
Okay, I'll give you the Chiefs. Right? I'll give you the Chiefs as well. What I'm saying is, I think the AFC is very much like there's a few good teams, and then it's like kind of some like mediocre-ish teams. The NFC is like powerhouses in they're the first 5 seeds, and then it's just trash.
The Titans beat the freaking Bills.
The Titans, I think, are very inconsistent. That's what I want to say about them.
Derrick Henry's going to be back in the playoffs.
I think once Henry, it'll be maybe a different story, but they are very inconsistent, and they lose to teams they shouldn't lose to.
That's true.
But then you have the Ravens. Lamar Jackson either has COVID or gets hurt every other week. The Steelers are like they beat some teams, but they're not great either. I think like you have the Colts who are like good but not great. I think the Chargers are good but not great. I think Bills are good but great. Browns, Bengals good but not great. You have the Broncos, I think are average to good. Okay, I'll put it this way. So right now the Broncos are the seed in the AFC. I think that they are better than honestly the 49ers, Washington, and every other team that's not in the playoffs in the NFC. But at the same time, the Rams are the 5th seed in the NFC, but I think they're definitely better than the number 4 seed in the AFC, which is the Ravens, and every team below them. I think they're close with the Chiefs. I think they're right up there with the Titans. And honestly, with the Patriots, I think they'd put up a fight.
Yeah, but the Ravens thing is such a I don't even think the Ravens are they're the 4th seed, but they're not the 4th best team in the AFC right now. Right now, with the way the Ravens are playing and with their physical condition, I very much would put the Chargers and the Colts and the Bills, all 3 wildcard spots, by the way. I would put all 3 of these teams ahead of the Ravens right now. Browns just beat the Ravens. I would very much put the Browns ahead just because of the Ravens' physical position right now, which, by the way, I understand with COVID, Browns just might be simply screwed. And right now, if Pittsburgh plays the Ravens, by the way, they just beat the Ravens. They're very much better than the Ravens too. So to say the Ravens, the 4th seed, they're only the 4th seed because of how great they played in the beginning of the season. They currently suck.
What I'm saying though is like the Rams are the 5th seed in the NFC, and I think most people would they're the best team in the NFC. I think they're definitely better than every team in the AFC other than the Chiefs, Titans, and Patriots. And I think with those 3, they put up a fight. But at the same time, with the teams ahead of them in the NFC, I don't think you could really say they're better than any of those teams, even considering they just beat the Cardinals. So I think what I'm trying to say is the NFC is so top heavy, and then once you get past the top 5 seeds, it's borderline trash teams. As for the AFC, I think it's like you have like the powerhouses like the Patriots, Titans, whatever you want to say. But then after that, it's like good teams, but not elite teams. But they're still way better than the bottom half of the NFC. Is what I don't know if this makes sense. Like in my mind, it makes sense, but I don't know if I'm explaining it right.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I get what you're saying. And oh, you know what the funniest thing about this is? If the standings stay the way they do, the Rams would actually end up playing um the Cowboys, which I think will be interesting. But Washington is actually going to end up playing Tampa Bay. They get a rematch, but this
Ooh.
time in Tampa, and that's going to be the wild card game. Again, I think that's just fascinating because, well, one, Washington just beat Tampa in Washington last week. The wild card round, Bucks had to travel to Washington and lose, and win. And this time, if it goes, Washington would have to fly down, and I think that would be very interesting to watch. So I'm definitely very much interested in that game. I cannot wait to pick against Rob in that game because I know Rob's gonna pick Washington to win that game again. Um,
If we get to the playoffs, I'm just gonna pick the Bucks to win the game because I can't bet against Tom Brady.
I don't know, man. They definitely don't look like the strongest team to me.
Doesn't matter. Tom Brady.
But well, we can talk about that real quick. What did you think about the Bills Bucks game?
I think that the Bills definitely had a good second half and made it close. But I'm honestly concerned for the Bills. Now they fell to the seventh seed, and they may not even make the playoffs after going into the season as debatably the number one team in the AFC. Uh, I'm concerned just for the fact that yes, they kept it close against one of the best teams in the league in the Bucks, but they also in the first half were atrocious, and that I think that shows a level of inconsistency. Which like in the regular season, it's not as big of a deal, but I feel like in the playoffs, consistency is one of the most important things. Unless you're the Falcons, then you have no hope anyways. But consistency matters, and if you get you're the other team gets a big enough lead, I feel like in the playoffs it's a lot harder to come back from than in the regular season, just because with all the factors and the nerves and whatnot. Uh, if they want to make a run at a Super Bowl, I think they're definitely going to have to learn how to be more consistent. They've had some very ugly losses this year, and even though they kept it in front over against the Bucks, I think that would be considered an ugly loss, and they did not look very good. I think Tom Brady ran for multiple first downs, which
Bruce
listen,
Arians had
I
to
know
tell him
you're a
to
Brady
stop.
fan. I know you're a Brady fan, but Tom Brady probably runs like a 7.2 40. Allowing him to do that shows something's wrong with your defense. I know you don't expect it, which is maybe why, but at the same
That
time,
is
it's pretty
exactly why.
pretty
That's the
poor.
last thing they expect.
At the same
The
time, their
best,
defense is
the best is
faster than
when
Tom
Brady
Brady.
jukes people out. That's like my favorite. Like, how do you let Tom Brady like that guy physically is incapable of going in one direction, stopping in time to go to the opposite direction. The fact that you let him do that to you, now that's concerning. Brady running on you isn't concerning at all because Brady running on you is literally the last thing you expect. That's like expecting a 2-month-old baby to stand up and walk. It never happens. Brady doesn't run. But Brady juking you out for a first down, now that's extremely concerning.
I
Sorry,
want to point out,
continue.
I know I'm a Bears fan, but I think it was
You told me.
2010, 2012. Brian Urlacher is thought of as one of the best linebackers of all time. It was a snow game where we lost 49 to 10. It was a blowout. Literally ruined my entire day. But Tom Brady goes for a scramble for a first down, and Brian Urlacher tries to tackle him, and Tom Brady jukes him out of his shoes. Very dark moment that I always think of when I think of Tom Brady running. But I mean, maybe Tom Brady got some wheels as a secret. I don't know.
Well, to me, one of the best moves I've actually seen Tom Brady make to juke someone out was against the Eagles in the playoffs. I don't know how much of that game you remember, but that game came down to a final Hail Mary with 5 seconds left or 9 seconds left on the clock, and they were at midfield and they went for a Hail Mary. I'm talking about the second Eagles Super Bowl, the one in 2017, when Nick Foles won. And I forgot who the defensive player for the Eagles was, but he literally ran across and he actually almost wrapped Brady around his entire hips, and Brady just like literally just shook him off, and it was just a tiny move, but it was just enough to let the guy not get a grip on him, and then stepped up and he made that throw. Obviously, it wasn't caught in the end zone, but he very much could have taken a sack there. And I think that's one of the best jukes I've seen from Tom Brady. That being said, was that all your thoughts, by the way, on the Bills? Because I'm about to keep it moving.
Other than yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much covered it. It's kind of concerning that I mean they're 7-6, I believe, which isn't a record. They're above 500, but for a team of that caliber, I feel like that's very, very concerning to have a record that bad.
Yeah. So here's what. So I'm gonna talk on the Bills real quick, and the main point is one. I don't think the Bills should be concerned about making the playoffs because their toughest opponent that they're going to face at this point for the next 4 games is actually the Patriots. Even if they lose that game, even if they win that game, they might not win the division. They're just gonna because they're currently 2 games behind the Patriots. Patriots play the Colts. They play the Bills. Besides that, the Patriots play Jacksonville and Dolphins, and I think Patriots can win both of those. I think Belichick is smart enough to win both of those games. Even though the Dolphins beat them, Patriots, week 1, it's week 1. I don't care about that.
It was Mac Jones' first career game too.
Yes, and as far as making the wild card spot, Bills play the Panthers, win. Falcons, win. Jets, win. So they're gonna win 3 more, and they'll be in the wild card spot. I'm not worried about Bills now being able to make it into the playoffs. Here's what concerns me. There's 2 main things that concerns me. Is one, it really bothered me that they didn't go for it on 4th down. And I understand that I'm just saying I might it sounds like I'm just saying this because Bills lost the game. But they took their chances in overtime. Not many teams, and Tom Brady has played in the league for 22 years now, and you can go to any team and ask anybody. There's not many teams that are willing to take the game, even though you stopped them in 4th quarter, you shut them down. There's not many teams that are going to say, hey, you know what? We had them in the 4th quarter. We can continue to have them in overtime. Let's kick a field goal. Let's take the game overtime. See what happens. I think that was a terrible decision. It was 4th down. They were the 3-yard line, 2-yard line, something. They were really close to a 1st down marker, and it was 4th down. And you're supposed at that point go to the sideline, pick the best play you can possibly come up with, come back and put the game to bed. It really disappointed me that the Bills actually, as much as I was rooting for the Bucks to win, and I actually laughed when they kicked a field goal to tie the game, and I'm like, you just messed up. You shouldn't have done that. Really bothered me that the Bills did that, and then to go for a 3 and out in overtime. Besides that, I was a lot more disappointed with the Bucks than the Bills in that game. Because you made a good point. You can't just get behind the 8 ball that back in the playoffs and expect to just come back and win a game. I fully understand that, and I'm not taking that away. But you can't just let off the gas after having a 21-point lead going into halftime. How did this game go overtime is beyond me. And I'm definitely, as great of a Tom Brady fan as I am, I'm extremely disappointed that when Bills was literally taking not even 3 minutes off the clock to come score touchdown after touchdown, when you got the ball with a couple of minutes left on the clock and you had a chance to either just drive down the field, run the clock down, at least go kick a field goal, make the task harder for them, or just go there and score a touchdown and put the game to bed. They didn't do either of those. They went 3 and out, and that is extremely concerning because if the Bills would have just come up with one good play in the end, just one good play in the end, and gotten a touchdown and handed you the ball with 30 seconds left on the clock, and you need to go score a touchdown because now the Bills are up by 4 points, you would have simply lost the game. I don't believe they were going to go get a touchdown in 30 seconds. And so the Bucks concerned me more than the Bills The capability of the Bills, who was able to actually go into halftime, make that adjustment, come out. You yourself said it. The Bears, Matt Nagy can't make any adjustments at halftime, even though they went into halftime playing pretty well, right? Packers made the adjustment, came back and won. Bills made all the adjustments in the world, and they showed it. And the Bucks didn't. And if that was Aaron Rodgers on the other side, and I understand last year they kicked a field goal, which made no sense to me. But right now, if this happens again and Aaron Rodgers has a ball on 4th down and goal, they're going for it. Kyler Murray, as much as he's played inconsistent, I very much have faith that he can make it. And Josh Allen, too, I think he could also make that play. So if any team should be concerned, it should be the Bucks. And as much as I hate to say it this way, Bills just had a moral victory. They did, because I didn't think they were going to win the division. I didn't think they were going to be the number 1 seed. I've been telling you that from the beginning. I kept saying I think New England's going to come back and take it, and currently they are, and they might actually just stay the number 1 seed. I think they can make the wild card spot, and I think they very much will. But the way they just fought in that second half, it's up to them to continue, either keep that momentum or say, we lost again. No, don't say we lost again. You just played a heck of a game in the second half. Take that momentum and just go win a couple more games. And once you get into the playoffs, regular season doesn't matter anymore. It simply doesn't. But yeah, very much disappointed in the Bucks. Very much.
Yeah, I know you talked about it at the beginning of your rant there, but the whole going for it or taking a field goal instead of going for it, I know I've mentioned this many of times. Every time any coach ever plays conservative and isn't aggressive at the end of games like that, they always lose every single time.
That's not true.
Josh, it's very much. I don't know. Every time I remember games where they kick field goals instead of like going for the touchdown.
No, Phillip Rivers. If Phillip Rivers can play toe-to-toe with Mahomes, go score a touchdown, go 27-28 with 0 seconds left on the clock, and instead of kicking the field goals to tie the game, they can pull out a freaking 2-point conversion. If Phillip Rivers can come up with a play, so can Josh Allen. And the Bucks defense was playing like absolute crap up to that point in the second half.
No, as I'm saying, should went for a touchdown.
Yeah,
been aggressive, not conservative.
But from where they were at, what's the biggest difference between going for, like, at that point, that is a 2-point conversion. Yes, touchdown or you lose the game, but from where they were at, like, you're telling me the coach doesn't have a single play that's good enough to get you 3 yards to win the game.
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, you were continuously freezing. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that they lose more often than not whenever they are not conservative.
I'm saying they need to be aggressive and go for the touchdown, because that's how that works every time.
I need you to get better internet so I don't yell at you, man. I gotta stop yelling.
I'm trying. But yeah, no, I agree. I think they should have went for it, and even if it doesn't work out, I feel like they have a better chance of winning by going for it. Josh Allen.
I'm gonna start sending you Xfinity flyers.
Josh Allen's a borderline like elite quarterback, and they didn't trust him to go for it. Like, the Bills have a good offense. Just throw like a fade route to Stephon Diggs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something. So Josh Allen could have just ran it in.
Also fair. He's built like a linebacker.
Yeah. Probably could have ran over 2 players for that touchdown. I think they gave that game away. And then they had no clue what they were doing once they got into the overtime. Like, yeah, I get it. It's 4th and 6. You have no choice but to punt it. But like, you're thinking like, oh, like, we literally made Brady feel like he's gonna see another loss to the Bills, and then now we're punting in overtime, and all they need is a field goal. Like, of course he's gonna go get the field goal. Like, what do you think is gonna happen? Well, like, at least a field goal, not a field goal, because they got a touchdown. By the way, 2nd touchdown ever by Tom Brady in overtime. In 22 years of playing, he's only thrown 2 touchdown passes.
I'm going to point out, you know who caught the game-winning touchdown pass? Was Brashad Perryman, who was on the Bears. Like, He was on our active roster like the entire year, but was like a healthy scratch, like inactive every week. And then we cut him like 3 weeks ago. He never even was active in a single game, but we cut him. He goes to Tampa Bay and has a game-winning touchdown pass. So shows Bears management for you.
Yeah. And also, I'm a little concerned. As great as the Bills' defense is playing, the Leonard Fournette touchdown run and the third and I think it was the 3rd and 4 that Brady passed on for them to go get a touchdown. Both of those were very long runs, and nobody ever caught up to him or was even there to stop him. So something to think about, Bills. Yeah, this offseason is, I can't wait for this offseason. It's shaping up to be such a great season.
The Bears are gonna fire Matt Nagy. We're gonna get a good coach. Maybe we'll be a playoff team next year. Like I'm hyped.
I'm happy for you, man. You deserve better. Bill O'Brien to Chicago.
I would take Bill O'Brien over Matt Nagy at this point.
Yeah, but what kind of an upgrade is that? It's like saying I need a cooler car. Let me go trade in my.
It's like Matt Nagy, and then it's like Bill O'Brien. It's an improvement. I would take anything. I would take me over Matt Nagy. I could not be a football coach.
It's not an improvement. You know why it's not an improvement? Because who would you rather have, Bill O'Brien or Dan Campbell? Honestly, I think I'll take Dan Campbell. I'm not gonna lie. Who would you rather have? Who would you rather have?
Dan Campbell's better fight for him.
Bill O'Brien or Matt LaFleur?
Matt LaFleur.
Okay, so there's 4 games that you just lost. 4. Why do you want Bill O'Brien? That's just because Bill O'Brien's a little.
Okay, obviously they're not going to hire Bill O'Brien. I'm just saying it would take over Nagy because Nagy's that bad. I think we're going to go for an actual good coach. They might.
The Bears might.
I would cry. It's like when the Jets hired Adam Gase after the Dolphins fired him. If the Bears did it, I think I would honestly not be a Bears fan anymore. I don't think I could handle it. I want Byron Leftwich, the Bucs offensive coordinator, my most ever favorite NFL player. That's my goal.
I have a tiny feeling Byron Leftwich is gonna stay for one more year to just let Brady play out a season 2.
I hope not, because I want him on the Bears.
Good luck, buddy. We will we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm also excited for tomorrow night's game, Chargers at Chiefs. Or is it Chiefs at Chargers? Either way. Chargers beat the crap out of Chiefs earlier this season, so I'm super excited to see what happens there.
Chiefs are a much different team, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, very much so. I think the Chiefs are great right now, so I'm excited about that too. I'm excited about way too many things right now. Well, Jarrett, unless you need to rant about something else other than Matt Nagy and the Chicago Bears, feel free to. Besides that, I don't have anything else.
I think I'm good. If I rant about Nagy, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, but there'd be a lot of cursing, so I'm gonna avoid it. Just Nagy's awful. We don't need to go into it.
You'll have to say a lot of fudge brownies and heck. So this is a very PG movie, or not movie. It's a very PG show, and we're gonna stick to that for now.
Blame Matt Nagy.
All right, everybody. Jarrett, thank you so much for joining today. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Please check out our YouTube channel at Cool Sports Guy, our Instagram Cool Sports Guy, our Facebook page Cool Sports Guy, and our awesome website coolsportsguy.com for more of these videos. And we will be joining again on Friday to pick our games for this upcoming NFL weekend. I can't wait to pick up against the Washington football team 6 weeks in a row now. I don't know who they play. I just want to pick against them already. But until then, I will see you guys later. Jarrett, you have a fantastic one. Thank you so much.
Have a good
night.